Okay, so right now we are going to talk about something a bit different but important for your exam preparation, and that is additional material for exam preparation. So, since we are preparing for the Cambridge O Level English Language 1123 syllabus, that is obviously what we need, right? So, we're going to take a look at the past papers. Now, uh, what you see in front of you is the October November 2024 paper 1 variant 1. This is what we'll be getting into the next time. So, this is the insert and the question paper. But in those terms, our resources are rather limited, right? We've gone through both variants of June 2024. So now we've got November, then June 25, and November 25. And so that gives us 6 papers, right? So not a lot when we get down to actually solving them. So where can we get additional resources that can help with our preparation? Uh, you may come across what I'm about to share with you as secret resources, or study booklets, or uh, you know uh, something else, right, marketed some other way. But this is basically the resource teachers are using, and that is the Cambridge IGCSE First Language English syllabus. So that is the 0500 syllabus. Now, it is not the 1123 syllabus, but it is very similar. In fact, I should say the updated syllabus of 1123 since 2024 is similar to the 0500. The 0500 has been this way for some time now, and the 1123 has been remodeled to be similar to the 0500. It's not of the same difficulty and technicality level, but it is uh, it is still, right, something that we can use. So let's take a look at this. You have inserts, text A, right, which is not very long, as you can see, then text B, and text C, which is about the length of comprehension that we would come across. Now, what kind of questions are we going to have to deal with, and are they any good to us? So, text A, taking a look at the question paper, it obviously tells you which questions to attempt from text A. So, you've got the standard comprehension questions from text A, which fall under question 1 of the 0500 paper 1, and these are obviously helpful. Okay, so for your question 1 type questions from the 1123 paper, so reading text A and answering these will help for extra practice. Then from text B, you have a summary, right? So the theme of all three texts is the same. As you can see, text A is bees, text B is beekeeping, and text C is the business venture, something about beekeeping and honey and stuff, right? So there's the passages they choose have a similar theme. The thing about this summary, it can be helpful. It's just that, right, it is shorter than what you're expected to write in your 1123, so it's no more than 120 words, and its grading is also less, so it's only 15 marks, right? And it's 10 marks for content and 5 for the quality of your writing. So if we sort of perhaps ignore the 5 marks for quality, right, there are 10 marks available for content. And if we take a look at the mark scheme and go to question, yeah, here, so we can see that there are 12 points available to pick. Now, obviously, because this is a shorter text, it will, when you start marking out, it will seem that most of the text is made up of content points, but still, right? Similar to what we have in the Cambridge, you are required to have 10 content points in your summary for maximum marks, and the mark scheme will have anywhere between 11 to 13. So rather similar. So we can attempt this, and we can, push our words up till 150, and we can change the grading 10 marks and 10 marks. And so text B will also be very helpful when practicing our summary, and we have at least the content points, and these content points given over here are mostly reworded, so they're rephrased, right? They're not copy paste, directly from the text. So you can use that as well. So that's helpful. Moving on. So we don't have a short response type question over here. Okay, so that's missing. Then, right, we've got questions from text C. You can still attempt these. Why? Because it's going to help you with your vocabulary. So they're asking you to identify a word or phrase from the text which suggests the same ideas as the ones underlined. So confidence about the future is not something that is given in the text, but they're asking you, okay, go to text C and find something that's written over here that has the same meaning as, right? So let's say it's optimism, right? Over here, Abdul does not feel the same confidence about the future as Damien. And so Abdul does not share Damien's optimism. So I'd go with optimism. And if I check the mark scheme, I'm pretty sure if that's going to be what they're looking for. So there you go. So it's going to help with your vocabulary. 2B is using your own words, right? And so that's the kind of question we get in the comprehension. So they've given relaxing, mild, and sipping. And so you have to find synonyms or synonym phrases for these. So that's definitely helpful. Again, the way the question is presented is different from 1123, but the underlying skill is the same. And then obviously we have the 3-mark question from right, question 1. So here from question 1, right, explain using your own words Ed's different feelings about the swim. And so over here, in fact, no, this is use one example from the text to suggest how the writers use. Okay, so this is actually helpful for question 2. Zoom out a bit. Yeah, identify one example and use your own words, right? So similar to that example explanation worth 3 marks. That's what you have over here, right? The text is not as long, but right, you probably have more than one option to choose from. So let's see if that's true. Yeah, so you can see 5 different from these few lines, these 3 lines, there are 5 different phrases that could be picked out and explained. So that's going to help you with your writer craft questions, and the way it's presented, it's similar to question 2E from the 1123 syllabus, 1123 paper. Moving on, this can help, right? So this is not something we have, but it can help us with our practice for writer's craft and implicit meaning. So they're giving you 2 paragraphs to focus on from text C, paragraphs 5 and 11, and they tell you, right, which ones those are. And then they're asking you explain how the writer uses language to convey meaning and create effect in these paragraphs. So it's similar to this, right? And similar to this question as well. Only difference is instead of giving you a few lines to focus on, they're giving you the whole paragraphs. And so they're telling you from each paragraph, choose 3 examples of words or phrases, again from each paragraph, so that's 6 in total, to support your answer. Your choices should include the use of imagery. right? And so this is like a piece of writing where they're expecting the candidates for 0500 to write between 200 to 300 words. So that's not something we need to focus on. Since we're practicing, we can find three examples and then elaborate on them, on how the writer uses language to convey meaning and create effect, right? And so they're not focusing on convey meaning and create effect about one certain thing, but overall. So taking a look over here, the kind of response they're expecting. We haven't read it, but for example, right, the very first phrase, the delicate tracery. And so they're going on to explain fine, because it says delicate, so fine, intricate, fragile, and then tracery becomes decorative patterns and artistic design. So we can practice that. We're not expected, or like when you're using the 0500, if you decide to do that for to further your practice, obviously to come up to the requirements of the 0500 is not what you'd be expected to do, but definitely attempt this, picking out examples and then working on how they convey meaning and effect is definitely going to help. So obviously this is not what we're doing, but any questions about the 0500 paper that I have demonstrated so far? Afin, does this seem like a useful resource? Okay, and it's even better because there you get more papers out of 0500. They have three variants for the June and November session, so that's six papers. And they even have papers conducted in some regions in March. So they have a March session as well. Now, for the March session, they only have one variant, but still, right? 3 and 3, 6 and 1, 7. So that's 7 papers per year. So that's a lot of resource compared to the 4 that we get, right? So it's nearly double of what we get for 1, 1, 2, 3. Here is a continuous writing, sorry, not continuous, extended writing task, which doesn't really fit in with something we need. Part of it can be useful for explaining the considerations and explaining the thoughts, but you can skip this. It's not really relevant for the 1123, practicing for the 1123. Now coming to paper 2. Right, so the paper 2 is directed writing and composition, and the directed writing, the approach is exactly the same, right? So you have, in this case, instead of having those, like the texts are longer, so they've got more detail, comparatively longer. They used to be longer in pre-2024 papers, but you've got text A and text B, so they're both about music apparently. So you've got these two texts to read, and so they're given as an insert instead of in the question paper itself, like 1123 has. And then you have a question over here. As you can see, evaluate views, attitudes, and opinions, and both give your views based on what you've read. Use points from both texts and your own words, etc. This one's a magazine article. So you can see that the question itself is exactly the same. The weightage is different. The word limit is the same, right? So we're not concerned about the weightage. We can attempt this question as per the requirements of the 1123 syllabus. So this would be 25 marks for us, right? Everything else is the same. Now, one reason why perhaps it is worth more in the 0500 is because they expect a bit more of the technical processing for the analysis and evaluation as compared to the 1123, right? A bit more, not too much, but yes. So obviously the mark scheme is available for you to refer to. And so directed writing is exactly the same, right? In principle, the question. So that's definitely going to help. And then you've got the composition. So the descriptive is, I mean, they have descriptive and narrative, they don't have, right? So it's the same. The way the prompts are presented are a bit different. So write a description with the title, the family. So this is not the kind of prompt you get for 1123. So probably, you know, not best not to. You could to practice your writing, but since it's rather different from what you'd get for your O level English, you can skip that. Write a description of a box full of items you no longer need or use. So that is very much appropriate to the 1123 syllabus, and we can do that. Again, similarly, for narrative, write a story with the title, the message. So this kind of prompt is not given in O level, but again, as a narrative, you can attempt it, right? You could sort of rephrase this, write a story in which a message plays an important role. So that is the kind of prompt you would expect to get in 1123. So I mean, it sort of boils down to the same thing. It's just how it's presented. So if you can manage that, then that's fine. That's good. And of course, you have the other prompt, which is write a story which includes the words "it had to be now," and that's exactly how you get a prompt in 1123. So the 0500 paper is very useful for furthering your practice for the 1123, right? But that's not the only resource. So if I just close all of these, I've got way too many tabs. If we take a look, we do have a few minutes. So if we just take a look at some of the older papers from 1123, right? I'm not going way back. I believe, you know, papers since 2002 are available on websites. But for example, if I open up something, uh, let's say June 2018, and insert, right? So back then, the reading paper used to be paper 2. Right now, it's paper 1. It used to be paper 2. So you've got that and the question paper, so QP21, and the mark scheme, obviously. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So you have the insert, and the summary used to come in first, right? So passage 1 in the older papers for 1123, the summary used to be first, and you can see passage 1, right? The question is for the summary, and it used to come in differently. So first there were 12 marks for you to identify content points separately, and then they used to ask you to write out the summary, which would be for 10 marks, and then there would be some other questions to, you know, identify opinions or something worth 3 marks. Again, no summary, like short response question, but we can still use this. Also, the word limit is like between 150 to 180, and if we take a look at the mark scheme, you've got far more points. So right, they have a given point. So they've got 2 given points because they have 2 themes running through this. Again, a given point, and in total you have 17 points. So it's not ideal, but still workable, right? And so what we can do is we can try and identify as many valid points as possible. 2 of them are given out of 17, so that leaves us with 15 points to find. They want 12, not including the 2 given, so they want 12 out of 15, which is similar to getting 10 out of 12 or 13, right? So what we can do is we can read the text, we can find, you know, 15 points or 12 points, and then we can select the 10 out of those points that we are most confident about, and using 10 points only we can try and write, or 12 points you can try and write a summary in no more than 150 words. So we can adjust it according to the requirement of the current syllabus. So still useful, yes. Okay, then moving on, to the second passage, which is, the one way for the regular comprehension questions. And so you read that, and you've got a mix over here. You've got the explicit meaning questions, you've got the own words questions, right? You've got the implicit, right? And they don't mention it as such, but you've got some of the writer craft questions mixed in over here as well, right? So this could be a cloud crossed her mind and gradually became a storm of doubt. This could be, how does the writer use effect over here to talk about Emma's feelings? If this were reworded according to the current syllabus requirement, like if this were made into a new 1123 paper, that's how this question would be presented. So you have a mix of question types from question 1 and question 2. Right, own words. Explain who you think was knocking on the cupboard and why. All of those. They've got these vocabulary MCQ questions which are no longer in the syllabus but still helpful. They do have this, which are very much directly the question 2 type questions from the current paper pattern. And so they give you these lines and ask you for the meaning and then the effect. Right? And so 1 mark for meaning, 1 mark for effect. And similarly over here, you can obviously go back and refer to the text where these lines are given. And so that's really going to help. And that is the comprehension. As far as paper 2, or what it used to be earlier, paper 1 is concerned, if I take a, open that up as well, QP 11. The directed writing isn't useful anymore because it's completely changed. So earlier they used to give you a scenario and give you bullet points on what to focus on. So that's not what we're doing any longer. And so that's not useful. So we can skip that. The composition still useful, right? Because you still have 1 descriptive topic and 2 narratives. You can still use these topics for your writing. So, and if you go further back, right, just like I've explained to you, if you take a look at the papers that are even older, so if I open something up, let's say from 2010, right, so this is an insert from 2010. As you can see, this is paper 2 and this is the reading paper. So where's the question paper for this guy? QP 21. So over here you have the comprehension questions coming in first, and there's no space to write it because they used to give you sheets earlier. So you can obviously attempt all of these. The vocabulary questions would be more challenging, and this is something that you could try out from the older papers because it's no longer MCQ, so you have to kind of guess what the meaning could be, and so that would help you in when you get the use your own word questions where you have to rephrase the words from the text. Then,
Sir,
yes,
is vocabulary a part of the current syllabus?
not directly. Now the vocabulary that they're asking you is either in the form of use your own word questions or in the question 2 type questions where they're asking you for writer's mean, like explain the writer's meaning and the effect and the feelings and etc etc. Okay, so that's where they're going to test your vocabulary, but not directly. But you can use these, you can attempt these. They're going to help you strengthen your vocabulary because they haven't given you any option. So you need to go and take a look at the way the word individual is used in line 5 of the text. So over here, right, that marriage and death had their own individual and appropriate music. So and write down what meaning you think it holds as its contextual meaning. And the summary, right? So it's just one long text. it's one long text. They're not two texts. And so summary is from part of the text. As you can see, they're highlighting from where to write the summary. So they're saying line 35 to 81 must not be longer than 160 words, including the 10 words given. And so those are the 10 words given. So if you skip that, it basically boils down to no longer than 150, which is again something that we can do. Difference is the weightage, right? There were no other questions in the summary section. So it was all like the summary itself was like a whole 25 marks, right? But we can adjust accordingly. So if just taking a look at the marking scheme for this guy, so that's MS21. And the summary, so yeah, they have 21 points, which is obviously a lot more than what we would want, right? But still, again, right, for the sake of practice, we can manage. So they're asking you to, how many content points are they asking us to get? They aren't mentioning that. Okay, so they're not giving you a breakup. So does this mention it? Each point scores 1 mark. Okay, does it mention maximum score? Length, introductory words, marking technique. Length. I don't know. At the moment, I'm not able to locate maximum number of points that they expect. Maybe I'm just skip. Okay, maximum mark of 15 out of 21 for points. Right. So 15, they're expecting you to find 15 out of 21. So we can adjust it according to our needs. And finally, if we take a look at the writing paper from back then, and we can even go further, but you get the idea. So you have, right, you can see that they used to be long, 350 to 600 words, and they didn't, highlight clearly description and, argumentative and persuasive, but you can sort of at least pick two of these. So describe an occasion and your feelings when you had to make an important speech. So that's obviously descriptive writing. Write a story which includes the words, would he be able to convince them? That's obviously narrative, right? This could be used perhaps at an occasion when your friend was right to be ambitious. This could be a narrative. And so you've got two narratives. This is very open-ended. This could be anything, right? And this is argumentative. So that's no longer part of the syllabus. And so, right, with that, we actually have a lot of resources if we look around, and we can utilize the older papers and papers from other syllabi for our practice, right? And so I'm sure that's going to keep us busy. Now, with that, I felt I was a bit rushed in going through all of that, but hopefully I did manage to cover everything. Are there any questions about any of the resources I've shared with you? Right, so these are obviously available, they're as available to you as they are to me, right? So when you feel like practicing further, go ahead, right, and do your best. I'm sure that they'll help, right? And with that, I'll end for today. I'll see you guys next week, inshallah.
Allah
Allah Hafiz.